All right, Ike, Linus, and Liza, it is that time of year again where the birds are chirping, the bees are stinging, the
Ouch.
cicada beetles are slamming into your face as you're driving around your Series 1 Land Rover with the windshield folded down. It is summertime again, and for us here at Her Majesty's Underpowered Hour, that means it's time for another edition of the Summer Breakdown. That's right. It's the Summer Breakdown Part 2, Dark Territory. So this time, we, Liza and I, undertook an epic journey with extraordinarily modern. It's an extraordinarily modern
comparatively
vehicle, comparatively speaking, to come up and get a slightly less modern vehicle, comparatively speaking, and then bring it back down here. And as you can imagine, adventure ensued.
We did use the U-Haul in last year's Summer Breakdown, so that kind of is like it's not like the same car, but
right.
You used a modern car to start your trip, and so did we.
They're both orange. So I think that's I think there is some parallel.
They're basically the same car.
It's like basically the same car. Yeah, I wish we had a U-Haul, as we'll get to the packing of the new Defender in a moment, and the epic nature of that. But so the reason for this entire trip, so Jason Momoa called and said, we need
little
you in
Easter
Oregon.
egg there for anybody who listened to last summer's Summer Breakdown.
If you haven't, you can listen to Jenna's companion podcast about the Underpowered Hour that will point out all the Easter eggs in each episode. So we decided we were gonna at some point, Ike and Linus found what is, I would say, one of the most remarkably unrestored and incredibly preserved NADA Series 2A Land Rovers, 1967 Land Rover that may be in existence. It is patina perfect, as some would call it, in a barn in Oregon. So maybe let's start there. Well before, if you will, the prologue, well before we undertake our journey up to Oregon, let's talk a little bit about that car. I happen to have right here with me the original 1974 registration card for that car and the original stickers, which will go into the Beres collection museum. But Mr. William Shattenkirk purchased this car, and a little while later, a few years later, you guys happened upon it. So let's talk about that. Where did you find this car, and what's the story behind it?
Yeah. So the saga begins with a phone call from Mr. Shattenkirk, and Ted calls me up and he says, I've got this Land Rover and I've had it for a while, and I'd like to drive it again, is what he tells me. Mm-hmm. And so come to find out, he's the original owner of this 1967 pastel green NADA station wagon, and he bought it new from the dealer in 1967.
Do we know which dealer it was?
He traded, I believe it's the Gold Coast dealer here in Oregon. Mm-hmm. He traded a 1960 Series 288 station wagon towards the NADA, which he had previously traded a Jeep towards. So he had definitely gotten the Land Rover bug, and he really liked his 88. And when the 109 came out, it was like a special model, just for the U.S. market, bigger 6-cylinder engine, et cetera. And so he was very excited. And he was a Korean War veteran, and so when he got back from the war, he got the Jeep and then the 88, and then subsequently purchased the 109. And he drove it for a few years, and it burnt a valve.
Yeah.
And so he had this great idea that he was going to put a Ford 302 small block V8 into this car. So he took the original engine out, and he kind of mothballed it away. And then he had a custom adapter engineered and built for the Ford 302. He found an engineering firm, because at that time there was really nothing. This is like 1969.
Before Scotty adapters.
Yeah,
Yes.
before really any aftermarket stuff was available for those cars. So he hires an engineering firm in Pendleton, Oregon, Hoosier Manufacturing, to make a cast iron Land Rover to Ford adapter, right? And he has this all built, and he's like getting really excited about it. And then for whatever reason, he doesn't do the conversion.
Right.
He did.
And so
the cross
so what
members
happens?
and-
So what happens is that he parks it in his barn, and he periodically, does tinkers on it or does something. But by and large, it sits, 2-year-old car. It sits from like 1969, and he continues to register it until 1974 when you have the stickers, and he never put them on. Never put them on the car.
Yeah.
So it sat in this barn and just totally unscathed. Perfect elephant hide interior, really nice car, just beautiful dash. But when he called me, the engine had been out. Sometime in the 90s, he got excited about it again, and he hired a shop in Portland to kind of go through the engine, replace the burn valve, reseal it, and put it back together. And so he had this engine, and he told me that he would go out every couple months and turn the engine over with a hand crank. And it was like on a skid, right? And so he was like, still, after all these time, he only drove it for 2 years. And after all that time, he's still excited about it, And he told me he's 95, I believe, 96. Mm-hmm. So he tells me he's just still excited about it, wants to get it back on the road. And I said, well, let's look at it. And we went down there and opened up the barn, and man, it's just an amazing car, totally just perfectly straight, beautiful interior. Amazingly, it survived pretty unscathed. So he wanted to hire us to do this work and get it back on the road. And so we agreed, and we started working on it, and we, went through the transmission and made sure everything was good. And we put a new clutch in it, and we got everything sort of fixed up, the controls, and, put new tires on it, and, on and on and on, all the things that a car that's sitting for that long needs, the fuel system and fuel pump and blah, blah, blah. So we go through and we do all that work, and we're getting close. We get the engine started, and I call Ted, and he's like really excited. I sent him a video of it running, and I'm like, we just have a few more things to do. And he's like, oh, this is great. I can't wait to come up like next week and drive it. And the next day, his family called me and told me that sadly, he had died.
No.
Yeah,
That's
I know.
A terrible way to. Oh no.
I know.
I
really
didn't know
sad.
this. I own this car now, and I didn't know this story. Oh.
So he didn't get to
technically,
drive
I
it. Still
still have to pay Ike for it. So Ike still has to technically.
So Ted is looking down on us, and I'm sure he's happy that it's running and driving. And I've sent pictures to his family, and they're really excited that it's going again and that it got the love and attention that it deserves. So Ted's family agreed to sell us the car because they weren't as excited as maybe Ted was, and it had really come a long way. And so it's a pretty cool car, and I'm sure Ted would be really excited that it's after 50 years of sitting that
Doing
it's back
something
on
stupid
the road.
with
Oh my
it.
God. Now
Yeah.
I feel like we're total assholes for driving it from Oregon to LA.
Oh, don't
I
feel
actually
bad.
feel the opposite way. I feel like if Ted had an opportunity to do that, I think he would absolutely have done that. I think he would have been up for the adventure.
He really drove that car in the 2 years that he had it. He put 42,000 miles on it.
Yeah,
he really
good.
drove it.
Yeah, he really drove it, and it's such a great car, and it's such a neat story, and it's one of those things where I think that those type of cars need to be preserved. They need to not get Chevy 6 cylinders put in them. They need to they need to do all of these adventures and all of that sort of stuff in the best way possible. So I think that
But you didn't tell me he died.
it was part of the story. We had to keep it it's all content.
He's a 96-year-old man, literally.
I mean,
every
I guess
second
I
in his
should.
life.
Yeah, I should have expected it, but still. Oh, okay. Anyhow,
Everything is content.
To be fair, it was his last project. Really, he was really excited about it, and he wanted to do it, and it's, it got done. And so I think we're, preserving his wishes, if you will.
I think so. I think we're doing a good job. I think, yeah.
Ted was 96. He couldn't have really driven it. He could have ridden around in it, but he wasn't in a state where, he could push the clutch in and that sort of thing. He was just giddy about it. He was just still the
I think
Rovers.
that what we have done with the car since his passing is exactly what he would have wanted us to do, as far as the details and the focus and sort of our plan and what we did. He would have wanted that exact thing. And so,
yeah.
Well, I will say it has now gone to a good home, because nobody is going to love that car more than Steven is. I can tell you that. I've never seen him more excited about a Land Rover. Like the 80-inch we have is amazing, and he was excited about that. And the Camel Trophy is incredible. He was excited about that. But there's something about this one that, Steven was like a 12-year-old kid again. He loves this thing.
That and the Freelander, those are his favorites.
And again, I feel like if Ted could be there in the Freelander, he would be. He's definitely shaking his head.
He would probably kick you in the teeth by the Freelander.
He's not a big Freelander guy, but hey, it's each his own. I'm equal opportunity.
I think we were talking. Ike and I were talking the other day. They made 811 of those trucks, and we guessed just by chance that probably half of them are gone. And of the surviving ones, I'm sure half of them don't have the original 6-cylinder anymore. So there's probably 200 to 300 of those surviving with their original engine. So at this point in time, you can't.
That might be generous.
Yeah, you can't.
There's probably 50 that drive.
There's probably 50.
And that's probably true, right?
Yeah.
Well, we know, for instance, Joe, our good friend out at Lost Cause Ranch, they have two of them. One has the original engine, but the engine, it's in pieces because they had to pound cylinders out the bottom side of it, and certainly won't, that engine might run again. Maybe the other one, his brother Ted's vehicle, Nada, has a Chevy conversion in it. And I think that's a pretty good example of those cars. Mm-hmm. Of the two that they have, one has some original pieces, but they're blown to shit. It's unusable. Mm-hmm. The other one has some pieces replaced, and it runs, but they both look like they were pulled out of a bog. And I think that's just the cars were reused, and people left them when the engine went, they replaced the engine, and then eventually they just left the car. I mean, these are 50-year-old cars. It's not out of the ordinary. So to find one that was so cared for, right? Obviously he really loved the car enough to make sure that it didn't sit out in the forest and just go to rot, that it was taken care of and it was preserved, and it and now I mean, you wouldn't believe it's a 50-year-old car, enough so that you'd think, why not drive it 1,000 miles?
This is a great idea.
Not just 1,000 miles, but why not drive it 1,000 miles when we know it's going to be 115 degrees outside in a few of the areas? So, part of the reason that we were coming to Oregon alongside, just spending time with Ike and Linus and Jenna and all the boys at the shop.
Velma. And
Velma and Peanuts. Absolutely. And, and giving Jason a bunch of giant parts that are going to be in the way.
He loves that.
At the
he
shop.
Loves that.
Yeah, he loves that.
He does.
He loves that.
You left us a whole car.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I did. At least it's a shorter car than the one that I took. So it feels like, from a space, from a Marie Kondo perspective.
I don't know. It's it's disassembled now, so it's bigger than two cars.
Yeah, it's actually two. That's perfect. Yeah, that's great. Exactly. Yeah, that's what I try to do.
Our plan is working perfectly.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to turn that roof into a boat. But part of the reason was go up there, I needed a bunch more parts. I'm putting the soft top permanently on my Series 3, some of that sort of stuff. And it's like, well, why don't we why don't we drive up to do that? It makes perfect sense. We should do that. And, in a side stream, we needed to replace one of our cars, and it was coming to the end of, we'd leased a pickup truck over the pandemic because we were waiting for the Lightning to get here, which will finally get here at the end of August. And so as an interim car, we're like, we'll just lease a Ranger. Well, the Ranger lease is up, and we're like, well, we need to buy something. At the same time, our good friends at Jaguar Land Rover had released the final 7 Trek 2021 Trek North Carolina Trek event cars out into the market. There were 70 cars made. About 50 of those cars went to the dealers, and the dealers bought them. So they, people at the dealership own them. A lot of dealership managers own them. That's where most of those cars are. We know where a few of the other ones are. And then there was these 7 marketing cars that just came out. So we were able to track one of these cars down. It ended up in Texas. And let's just say they wanted a lot of money for it, way more than we're ever going to pay for a Land Rover, even the nicest, newest of Land Rovers. And so in this climate, the only way.
They're always trying to get a premium because they don't have enough inventory right now. So they're like, the dealer markups are really pretty substantial.
It's
pretty predatory, actually.
It is, yeah. So the only way, or here's a top tip for you. So the best way to get to pay retail for your Land Rover is to call the CEO of Land Rover, none other than our good friend Joe Eberhardt, famous Land Rover CEO and amateur wrestler. He's doing much better. He's fine. My second call would have been to Wyclef John to see if he could maybe negotiate.
Suplex Joe Eberhardt again to make.
No, I was going to see if Wyclef would go down to the dealer and see if he could just apply some body pressure. But Joe thankfully came through for us and made the deal happen. And so 3 weeks later, a trailer showed up from our good friend Brad Pyatt, which is, if you're from the South, how you say Brad Pitt. He brought he's a gentleman that moves cars around for Land Rover, brought the car to us. And so the day before our trip to Oregon, a brand new super orange, brand new Land Rover Defender rolled out of the back of the trailer, and we were ready to embark on probably the most rigorous use of a new Land Rover Defender 110 that any new Land Rover Defender has ever.
So it's coming off the truck, and I went up to the workshop to receive it, and I was in the middle of a meeting on Zoom, and I was carrying my laptop around and trying to film content for Instagram of this thing coming off of the trailer. And this guy was really lovely and chatty and wanted to talk to me.
And you had to start packing it immediately.
That's
immediately.
Right. Well,
I'd already started. I'd already organized all of the camping gear into a big pile in the workshop. I was ready to load it straight in.
And not unlike Linus's Model T, the car barely fit in the trailer. It was too tall, so they had to put it in delivery height, which basically lowers it right to the bump stops and lets you drive at 5 miles an hour.
And there was millimeters on either side.
And because of the way that it was packed in or whatever, as it turns out, a new Land Rover Defender's bumper is double stick taped on. That is how it comes from the factory. It is double stick Velcroed to the front of the car. I imagine so if the winch gets fouled, you can take the plastic thing off and you can get in there and you can unfoul it. But Brad's note to me said, car's unloaded, everything's good. You might want to pick up some sticky Velcro on your way home and put the bumper back on. To which I thought he was joking until I got there and the bumper was hanging off and I needed to sort of re-engineer the sticky bumper.
Is this a Trek edition or a Keds edition?
Exactly. We put the little Velcro strappies on it. It's awesome. Yeah. So after a few minutes with the double stick Velcro tape redoing that, I used a much higher test double stick tape than was factory equipped. It's
that's troubling. That's troubling. They didn't put that on. in the first place?
It's like going to polyurethane. On a new Defender, you go to the 3M double stick tape instead of the generic double stick.
How did the bumper fall off? It just fell off?
It just became, I think it was either hot in the trailer or there was maybe enough vibration. The glue on the backside of, it's that like textured PVC material that new cars are made out of. I actually don't think it's PVC. It's some kind of a polyurethane. But anyways, it just doesn't stick. Things don't stick to it very well. You need to use, like the super high tack, the 3M stuff with the red back that if you were to get it stuck to any hair on your body, it's 100% taking that hair out.
I guess what I was getting at
is that how you groom yourself?
It is. Yeah, that's how I get. That's how I get
fine lines.
These perfect lines. Yeah, exactly.
I guess the point.
Beard by 3M.
The reason I asked that question is to make sure that we don't imply that it was damaged by that fantastic Land Rover moving guy.
No, Brad said it was like that when he picked it up. In fact, the dealership said it was like that when they got it, and they tried to stick it back together. And then Brad stuck it back together.
Have they not heard about rivets?
I guess not. Multiple generations of people sticking it back together. But I think we got her good now. We have a little higher test.
Now, do you think if you removed like half or 3/4 of the number of Max Tracks that are bolted to it, that it would have fit better in the trailer?
Yeah, potentially. They did. Yeah, there was, and nothing I like more than, as Linus knows, Max Tracks, the most versatile tool ever created that I have never once in my life used.
Oh my gosh!
But
Steven,
I have multiple vehicles.
I don't think I showed this to you when you were here. I can't remember, but I have acquired a 1920s era Max Track. I have to show this to you. I completely forgot.
That is fantastic.
It's basically like a linkage of metal that is two runners, and they're hinged, and then they're attached to each other with a series of 1x1 square pieces of wood. And it rolls up into a tube about this big and has a handle, and you can just sling it out and then drive on it.
Like tiny train tracks. Oh, that's very cool. I believe
this is what douches in the 20s hung off their cars.
It's nice to know. It's a long-standing tradition of
someday, somewhere, some flippin' moron is going to find one of your Max Tracks on eBay and just be so happy, and he's going to buy it and he's going to put it in his house.
An original Max
hanging on the wall.
2062 Linus is going to be like, this is the greatest thing.
Linus is teasing you, but what he's not telling you is that his Land Rover looks like a porcupine. It's covered in so many Max Tracks.
Yeah, I don't mount mine lengthwise. I mount them sticking straight out, long way.
Yeah, sticking straight out. Yeah, that's the way to do it. It improves the aerodynamic efficiency of the car. So anyways, about that Max Track sponsorship, we'll take any color you want to give us. It's true. We had, it has all kinds of shit on it. It has the high lift jack on the roof. It has the shovel as one needs. Although I will say those Max Tracks were muddy as hell when we took them off to. They had obviously been used during the Trek event. I'm sure they had purposely set up a use for the Max Tracks. I like to use the Max Tracks when using my camp shower, so my feet aren't in the mud. That's when I find.
And if you bring a set of sawhorses camping with you, they make a great table.
Oh yeah, super, and it's really convenient to set cups on them with all their little rivets and spines and holes and things. Yeah, no, the Max Track is really, it's the tarp of the 21st century. It really is an amazing tool that everybody should bolt to their side.
I like to mount them vertically on the back corners of my car and then scratch my back on them like a bear.
That's real good. Speaking of, we saw a Subaru like an Impreza, and the only only piece of off-road equipment it had was 2 Max Tracks, literally like seat belted, like through the back of the trunk, out over the trunk, and then back into the closed trunk. It was just like held down to the lid of the trunk, which is really cool. I'm like, that's a guy. I like that guy. And then yesterday, Chris and I were going to look at something, and there was Chris, who doesn't listen to the show, there was a gentleman driving a Ford Escort from, I would say, the mid 90s that had a raised exhaust with a flapper on top of it.
Yes.
And it had a little guying wire down to the roof so that it didn't sort of fall backwards.
That was probably holding the car together.
It may very well have been. I was like, this
structural exhaust.
This guy has good ideas. I want to know what other ideas this guy has, because this one, I don't know how you open the trunk because there's a wire in the way, but I'm for it. I'm for it.
So you how long was it from the time that you got the Defender to when you left?
12 hours, maybe less.
18?
It was it was a quick
maybe?
turnaround. It was a quick turnaround. So the first thing is, and Liza can expand on this, but there's not a lot of room in a new 110. An old 110, you can put a ton of shit in there. The problem with the new 110 is that even though it's a little bit bigger in every dimension, it is 19 inches thick. So whereas a 110 is like a 2 mil piece of aluminum, this is the width of a regulation football all the way around. So there's actually just a tube of space down the middle of it that is big enough to hold a couple human beings, but not as much equipment as you would like, maybe.
So this is where I come in. This is where I come in because my favorite thing to do is to pack trucks. I wasn't kidding last week when I talked about the at the Dometic setup in Overland Expo, how expertly packed it was, so there wasn't a spare millimeter. That's how I had to pack the Defender. The problem was on the trip, every single time we got out and took something out, I would try to reconfigure it and try to get more efficient with the packing. So I never knew where anything was. I always was changing where everything was throughout the whole trip.
Yeah, and to get a walkie-talkie out, you'd have to reach in and then go a right angle and then sort of angle your arm down, and then you could kind of just feel the antenna and sort of get it back out of there. It was a bit of a mystery box.
I think you can be forgiven for that. This is the first trip in that car, right? So as you take more trips, you'll get it dialed and everything will have a place, and then you'll know where everything is. Yeah,
we had a little bit of roof strapping. I mean, there's the Land Rover roof rack is I think a little underrated. I walked around up there and it did not feel safe. It felt like I was going right through that thing. So Liza switched over to roof duty, and I
think that's a better talent to task anyways.
Yeah, for sure. No, my balance is terrible. It definitely somebody
I have video evidence of Steven's balance being terrible.
I was just gonna ask if the video of you falling off the top is gonna be in the YouTube content.
Well, I think it's that's part and parcel with the forklift crash footage. I think there's going to have to be some fan based incentive to make us release that, because it's going to become part
release the footage.
Yeah, release the forklift footage. It's going to be like the Blair Witch Project. That thing. Ike has seen it. It was.
So, do you feel like you brought everything that you would need on a real camping trip? Did you have enough room?
We brought too much. We brought way too much. We brought so many things that we didn't actually.
So there is enough room to do a real camping trip inside of that car.
With the roof. We couldn't have done it without the roof bags, for sure.
And we Cooper sat behind Liza, and the 2 fold down seats beside her was also full of shit. So if you had 2 small children, you'd have to decide which one you want to take with you.
Or leave
behind.
You
couldn't take them both. Yeah, exactly. Or leave them both and just fill the whole backseat up. Then you have plenty of room. Then it's no problem at all. I mean, a certain percentage of the storage is just Cooper coloring paraphernalia. There is an amazing amount of that. So many pens. So many.
But we managed to get away with not having a single crayon melted in the truck.
That you know about.
That's a feat.
That we found yet. Yeah, that we found yet. Yeah, and if there was any crayons in the Nada, they would just
flip
incinerate
the seat up at the end of the trip and
all
just
crayons.
A rainbow of wax.
Coincidentally, I did. It's funny that you mentioned that because I did just return the Ranger, right? And I quickly did the, shit, I got to bring this thing back, put everything in a box before we go. And I lifted the seat up at the workshop and just put it straight back down. I'm like, you know what? No, I refuse. I'm not getting any of these crayons, pencils, bits of paper, beads, sparkles,
French fries,
chicken nuggets.
My God. So there's no way. Yeah, some poor valet at the Galpin Ford here in Los Angeles is going to lift that up and is just going to be like, you know what, I don't need this job. That's it.
He just quits.
You know what? I'm going
away.
I'm going back to New Mexico. I'm going to start that alpaca farm like I've always talked about. I don't need this shit.
So you get the Defender, you get it packed, and you leave. And then, do you have an itinerary, or
we don't even know where you went or what happened.
The plan was what we were going to do is we decided to leave late that night because we did want to get some.
I should also mention we left on Stephen's birthday.
Oh, we did. Yeah, that's right.
It was Canada Day, and it was Stephen's birthday.
That's right. I like to celebrate my birthday. They are. Yeah, they are. The decision for my birth was based on as a celebration of Canada Day.
I thought it was the other way around. I thought they celebrated Canada Day because it was your birthday.
Could be. I don't know. I was told until I was maybe about 8 years old that the fireworks were on behalf of my birthday, because we do fireworks just like we do here on the 4th of July in Canada. And it was a rude awakening when finally somebody was like, those are clearly not for you. I mean, that didn't make any sense. It made sense to me because I'm a narcissist. But, So we were
leaving, and we wanted to get a couple hours under our belt because we were driving up to stay with some other friends of ours who live in the Bay Area, and they own a beautiful piece of land near Truckee, which is
near Lake Tahoe.
Near Lake Tahoe, for those who don't know. And it's lovely. It's higher altitude. Really, really beautiful. The forecast was that it was going to get down to 30 degrees at night. And thankfully, I don't think it ever went below about 42. But it was going to be cold at night and hot during the day. Yeah. So, we'd sort of packed all sorts of ranging gear from, super hot daytime weather to freezing cold nights, and hence the overpacking that we ended up doing. But we drive up to Truckee, and of course, we first
stopped in Fresno.
Why?
Which is important because later on we'll be back in Fresno. We'll get to that later. But we stopped in Fresno hotel overnight, and were greeted for the first time with an opportunity to update the software over the air of the new Defender. Right. And so we said, "Oh, cool. Okay, let's go ahead." And it entices you with all these new features that you get, like you get wireless CarPlay, and you get like a ball massager, I don't know, whatever. And you say, "Okay, go ahead," and then I'll see you in the morning, all updated. And that was the first day of like 97 consecutive days we were greeted with, "Ooh, the software didn't install overnight. Sorry, try again." And every single day it would entice you to update.
Now, are you?
But
I would just like to state that, like, Stephen's job for a living involves really, really complicated high-end technology and software, and making things new technology work. He's been doing this his entire career. This is what he does. But could he get the bloody car to update its software? Absolutely not.
No.
When I eventually at the end of the trip went, "Oh, sure, yeah, we'll update." Did it do it the first time? Absolutely.
Wait, Stephen, was there a QR code for that update?
Yeah, it's similar to Ike's struggles with QR codes.
I'm just glad that the update wasn't a subscription to the heated seat update, because that would have been horrible. It'd be like BMW. If you update sometime in the future, you may lose features of your car instead of gain them.
It's a totally different thing, and not by attrition like you do with the classic Land Rover, where features just go away because the thing breaks.
They will be disabled.
They take them from you. No, in fact, the opposite.
It'll be like a video game where there's like in driving experience purchases, and
you have to unlock
before long,
the heated seats.
Yeah, before long it'll be like, press here $15 fee for brakes right now to like know that you're going down a hill.
But fortunately, Steven, being a series owner as well, doesn't need to make that purchase.
Doesn't need brakes. No. He doesn't need brakes.
Nope. I'm good to just steer into the closest lake. That's fine. We're good. But no, it's interesting because it is we are kind of going the other way in that there are all kinds of features that are built into that car, and I'll have to send a letter of apology to the fine folks at Land Rover, but I am adding those features to the car, even though I didn't pay for them, because it is just software, and you can only keep it from the right person for so long. So
you just voided the warranty.
I totally voided. I mean, it has limb lifters on it. I can't imagine that doesn't void the warranty, but oh well, it's good.
Those factory fitted, right?
Factory fitted limb lifters. The only car to ever come with factory fitted limb lifters, which apparently are illegal in California, but whatever. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
They're illegal? Wow.
It's because of all the llamas and alpacas that you drive by.
Yeah. And they just exactly. Just so them. It's the limbs. The limbs are important. We can't.
So you got to Truckee the second night, and
yes.
How was that piece of property? How big is it?
It was lovely.
How many acres is it?
It was really nice. 10 acres. 10 acres on the side of a mountain looking out at like forestry service land. And lots of their neighbors are building cabins. They'll get there eventually, but they have this tiny little shack on the property, and they have a really nice camper set up with their Toyota Tacoma, and they take the 6-month-old with them and go out to the property on the weekends sometimes. And yeah, it was really, really lovely. And so they, they're kind of game for whatever we want to do, hanging out for the weekend. We don't see these people as often as we'd like to. And so we decide the next day that all Cooper wants to do is go to a lake. She really wants to put on a bathing suit and go swimming. And we want to take the truck out on a trail run. And so our friend Chris leads. They throw the baby in the back at nap time, and we go find a great trail up to a fire lookout. I don't know. It was not that long. I think we were out there for 3 hours total, up and back. It wasn't really a long one. It's
surprising how little time it feels like when you are in essentially a living room on 4 wheels.
It was very nice.
Pretty comfortable.
Very comfortable. Yeah. Incredibly comfortable. And I kept, because we had another car there, we tried some things to get it stuck, but it's like you can't, the new ones, especially because this has mud terrain tires on it, they are very much not the stock tires, which is, I think, important to highlight that the Trek cars come with real tires. And so it was really hard to get it stuck. We didn't really manage it.
We weren't really doing anything terribly technical.
Oh yeah. No, I'm going to get it stuck.
But it was fun. It was really fun to put it through its paces and, drive around for the day and we eventually found a lake, and Cooper got to go jump in the coldest bloody lake in California, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was like 25 degrees in that lake. Like, I don't even know. I'm not sure how it wasn't ice. It was absolutely amazing, but she was so excited about getting
literally
the
rest of us were wearing like puffy winter jackets, and my kid was in a bathing suit in this freezing cold lake. Whoa. Go figure.
Mm-hmm. And she's cold in a 70-degree room, so I'm not sure how. I don't know why. Just the excitement of a lake.
The excitement. Yeah.
So anyhow, we're finishing up this trail run. We're headed back to the property, and we pull onto the paved road. And I don't even think we went a half a mile before this huge rock comes off our friend's tire and just hits our windshield, like smack in the middle of the passenger side, and leaves like a silver dollar sized divot.
It was
in
like
our
we were
brand
being
new
shot
Defender.
at in a Bond movie.
No.
It was insane. It was insane. Yeah,
I posted that to Instagram when it happened, so people can go and find that. It was a decent, like, silver dollar sized divot. It was pretty major.
It's very important to note that new Defender ownership is about complaining about things like rock chips, because that's about as much as you kind of have to series Land Rover ownership is like, and that's when both rear tires fell off and we started skidding down the hill. A new Defender ownership is about, and then when we came out, there was a scratch on the door handle, and it's terrible. It's just a little different. That's all. You just have to calibrate what you complain about, to the age of the car. And so I think it's fine.
Well, as long as you're complaining about something.
As long as you're complaining about something, that's what Land Rover ownership is about. A series of compromises that come out as a.
I don't know though. I think it makes you a stronger person.
Yes.
Rising above adversity.
just being able to suffer through other parts of your life without complaining as much because you're used to driving a series truck.
That's exactly for Linus, it's rising above perversity.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Sometimes. So great time in Truckee, great couple nights camping there. Wonderful to see those folks. Great to take the car off road. I think again, probably in a very small group of people that have a new Defender and are camping within the first 12 hours and off-roading within the first 24. But that all went really very well. And one of the things that Cooper was continually asking for, we don't know why. I assume it's YouTube or
no. I think it's your mother
or
put
it's
this
my
idea
mother,
in her head.
Who is a terrible influence on her. She desperately wanted to stay in a motel. For a variety of reasons.
Curious.
Exactly. It's not really, it's a weird thing to differentiate, I guess, for a 7-year-old, but she really wanted to stay in a motel. So we thought, okay, no problem. We're going to get to, we're just going to get over the Oregon border, and then we'll find sort of the first town there. We'll find a little.
This was on the 4th of July.
4th of July.
On the 4th of July.
Yeah. So the little motel, first little town on the Oregon border there, coming up the back way from Reno, and we find on the internet something called the Wild Goose Lodge, and it's a little motel.
That's a red flag.
It's looks
it's
great.
Not the first red flag.
It looks the flag's got a lot redder than that. It looks looks great. It's a little thing, whatever, it's fine. Okay, we're gonna get a little bit of dinner. We're gonna go to the motel.
I thought it was a lodge.
Have night's sleep. We'll get a shower. It is a motel.
Oh,
yeah,
it's a motor lodge.
It's called a lodge. But
what town is this? Klamath
That's right.
Falls?
It's a motor lodge.
Something like that.
No, about an hour outside of Klamath Falls. What was it called? Merrill?
Merlin?
Oh, yes, that town.
Merlin? There is a town called Merlin.
Merkin?
Now, I would normally think that a border town with a motel with wild in the name is probably a no-go, and you were like, yeah, I'm going to take my daughter there.
Let's pack up the 7-year-old. So we get into the town, and it's the 4th of July. It's like 7 o'clock.
Well, first of all, I made the reservation while we were en route. So it's the 4th of July, and I made the reservation, I don't know, maybe about 4 o'ck in the afternoon from my phone.
The Wild
we were
Goose
still in California.
Has a website.
Did they ask you how many hours you needed the room for?
No. But they do have a picture of each individual room. Yeah. And when you go to check out, you choose which rooms you want to book.
Yeah.
And all of the rooms only have one bed, which our child is too big now to sleep with us. So we knew that we were going to get two rooms.
There's a reason for that.
This is important.
Only one bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we pull into this town, and we first of all, we're planning on getting dinner when we get into town. And I keep looking ahead going, there is not much there. I don't think anything is going to be open. It's the 4th of July. But we decide we're going to take our chances, and we roll into town, and there's maybe 5 restaurants. Most of them are Mexican taquerias. And as we're driving down the street,
I was totally
really
on
wanted
tacos. I wanted tacos so bad.
And we start looking on either side.
Oregon taco isn't something that I really wanted, but I wanted to try it. I would have given it a go.
They looked legit. They looked really good. Anyway, so we're driving down the street. That one's closed. Yep, that one's closed. Everything is closed. Not one single thing in this town is open because it's like 7 o'clock on the 4th of July.
Bad planning.
People are out getting all hyped for fireworks.
Oh, yeah, so we do manage to pull in to the only grocery store in town 15 minutes before they're closing. And we go in, and we've noticed on the Wild Goose Lodge website that they have like a kitchen area, like a shared kitchen that anybody can use with a grill. And so we decide we're going to grill a 4th of July meal for ourselves because there's nothing else to eat in this town. And we're like throwing ingredients into the cart and like paying as they're trying to lock the grocery store up for the night. And we go to the motel and we go to check in. And I send Steven in first, and he's taking a little while. Nothing's happening. He's not coming out. So Cooper and I decide, well, let's go in and see what's going on.
Yeah.
And
meanwhile, so I have pushed a Ring doorbell that they have set on
in the lobby
on a little
stand, little check-in desk.
In the little check-in desk, and we're sitting there, for about 15 minutes.
20 minutes, maybe.
Clearly,
yeah, it was a long time.
They're not here. And then a middle-aged gentleman with a mustache, bald gentleman with a mustache, and dad house shorts and a t-shirt, shows up behind the counter and says, "Can I help you?" And we say, "Yeah, we're," and it's very important that it's like he's staring at something that is 100 yards behind you.
Yeah, like looking right through your soul
all the time, and also like trying to adjust his eyes to the light in real time.
Focus on you,
but the light isn't changing; it's the same. But
he was baked out of his tree. He was so far gone.
Been the highest human being I've ever met in my entire life. Anyway, so he says,
it's Southern Oregon, to be fair. Southern Oregon, Northern California.
Yeah. So I look at him. Yeah. I look at him and very chipper, and I say, "Yeah, we booked a room on your website earlier. We booked 2 rooms on your website earlier today, rooms 5 and 6." And he looks at me for an extremely uncomfortable amount of time, just stares at me with this blank look on his face, to the point where I got so uncomfortable. I kind of looked back at Steven, what do we do?
We thought maybe he had just had a stroke, possibly, and we were re-experiencing in real time. So he says, that might be a problem. And we said, "Oh, okay." Oh. And he's like, I don't think anything's clean. And we said, okay. And he's like, let's go check it out.
Like, just generally nothing in the motel is clean.
I wasn't sure what the statement was exactly. And so
maybe you didn't seem like the normal clientele for this motel.
Maybe not. So we walk around to the rooms, and he walks up.
We come around the corner. Yeah. Wait, we come around the corner.
Oh, right.
And we've got the Defender parked in front of the rooms that I booked.
The bright orange Trek Defender.
The bright orange Trek Defender. We come around the corner.
That is at this point covered in dirt and mud and dust and stuff. So it looks like it's maybe just come back from a safari.
And as we come around the corner, he stops dead in his tracks and stares at it like it's a freaking spaceship.
I think he was trying to figure out if it was really there or not. I think that's what the processing that was going on was a little bit of like, listen, I don't know. I don't, whatever. I don't make any decisions or judgments on your recreational drug use, but everybody's been at that point where they're, some people have been at that point where they're like, am I so high that I'm never going to be not high? Like that is this it? Is this how I die? This is like
maybe he thought he was being abducted,
and
he thought it was a spaceship and he was going to be abducted.
He was looking forward to
clenching his butthole really tightly.
He was ready.
It's going to be probed.
So when he finally processed that there was a car there, I think he said something like, "It was a cool rig," and then
cool rig,
bro, and then walks up to the door and opens it as if he was expecting like a murder inside.
Like he opens it by 3 inches and looks, he's afraid to look into it. He won't turn on the lights. He's just slowly checking.
What kind of creatures come running out? Human or otherwise.
Seriously. Whether there's a dead body on the floor,
a human centipede in there, and then he looks back at us, and we're like, is it going to be? And he just sort of shakes his head.
Clean.
He looks down and shakes
Not
his
clean.
head and pulls it closed. He then goes next door to the next.
Got to call the coroner
and does exactly the same thing. We go through the same thing. Is it going to be clean? It's not clean. And and he says, "All right, I got to clean it." And we're like, okay. I didn't expect that. I thought it was like, you got to go to the Best Western about an hour away, which, by the way, we were like basically already ready to do. But he's like, no, got to clean it. And at that moment, something clicked inside of me that said, this is content. We need to experience this for the good of the audience.
Wow.
And so
really put yourself in your family.
So did you help him clean it or just film him cleaning
it? Well,
just hang on.
So
he decides he is going to clean this room for us and says, is there like anything you guys can do for a little while? And we're like, well, yeah, actually we'll cook dinner. Does that sound okay? Can we go use the kitchen? He's like, yeah, that'll be fine.
It's not clean.
No, actually, thank God the kitchen was not in rough shape.
Otherwise, I
might have
not
pulled
anymore.
the plug and been like, we're driving. Right. So it's important to also note that when we pulled up, there was this huge Forest Service fire truck that pulled up at the same time as us and parked literally in front of the lobby door that we came out of. So in coming around the corner to see the Defender, we have passed by the biggest freaking fire truck you've ever seen.
Through the windows of the front lobby, impossible to miss. And he says...
So now as we go back around to the lobby door with him...
Well, he asked me, do you know where the kitchen is? And I said...
Oh, right.
No, first time here. And he says... Oh, okay, I'll show you. And so we're walking around the corner... And we walk up to the, past the fire truck, and he says, it's a cool rig. And I'm like, assume he's talking about the fire truck. And I said, yeah, that's neat. Those bush fire trucks are really cool. And he looks over and he goes, oh, yeah. And I don't know. I guess he was still talking about the Defender, and then was like surprised by a giant fire truck that had been there the whole time. So we go in,
18 inches from him.
Yeah, it was right in front of him, and he just sort of realized, like it appeared out of nowhere.
Snuck up on him.
It really snuck up on him. And so we go out into the courtyard, and he's like, "Okay, the barbecue's here. Here's a shed that we built that has a pool table, a workout room, some old DVDs, and like part of a kitchen, and also some laundry. And like it is just the weirdest like multi-purpose room that I've ever encountered. But we're like, okay, great, this will be great. This will be great.
Do you have pictures of this room?
We have pictures of that room. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The multi-purpose room.
Oh, we took pictures of the multi-purpose room where you can pump iron, shoot pool, and like boil spaghetti all at the same time. We got it. It's like the weirdest college dorm room.
It's like your apartment in college.
Yeah, it's like your apartment in college. Yeah, exactly. So the barbecue outside, and this is part that Liza doesn't know, probably wouldn't have stayed if she did know. So I open the barbecue, and we go to get it barbecue looks good. Do a little scrub it with the scrub brush. Get the gas turned on. Get it started. Start it.
What did you do?
And no less than 1,000 little silverfish things like come out of it all at the same time. It's like it gave, like one of those things on the internet where there's like a ball and they hit it and it turns into 1,000 spiders. It was just like that. And because it was already a difficult enough evening, my instinct was this, what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn this up all the way and I'm just going to close this lid. And we're going to come back like 10 minutes. And this is going to be a problem that's solved. And it's going to be no problem. They hate fire. It's going to be fine. So,
in unrelated news, I happen to have a 1967 Nada Series 2 that is now available for sale if any of the listeners are interested.
Because of another dead owner.
Too soon. Too soon.
Too soon. So we cleared out all the silverfish, and Cooper was like, "What are those bugs doing?" And I'm like, "They're leaving. It's fine. Don't tell Mom." And we cooked up some dinner, some delicious dinner, and
covered in bugs.
Covered in bugs. It was fine, the crispy, but it was good. It was very tasty. And so we set up like a folding table in this like bizarre room because like we didn't want to eat on the pool table. And so anyways, we're on the folding table.
So as we're cooking, this guy keeps coming back in, and he comes in with like this Band-Aid wrapped around his finger. And he keeps coming in. This happens multiple times where he keeps coming in and saying, "I got a cut on my finger, and I didn't think that you wanted blood on the sheets, so it's taking me a little bit longer, but I'm gonna clean the room. I'm gonna get it clean for you guys."
At one point he offered,
you were like, "Yeah, actually I do want blood on the sheets."
He was like, do you like, he's like, "I have sheets."
And I said, "I can put sheets on the bed.
Yeah,
I can do
it.
that.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. Don't worry." And at one point, I thought that's what we had agreed to. And then he came back and he's like, "I'm going slow because the finger I had to bandage because I assume you don't want blood on the sheets." And we're like, "Is that more blood on the sheets or any blood?" What, like, anyways, I feel like there's probably already blood on those sheets. Let's be.
So you guys have this guy's contact information. You guys going to keep in touch?
Yeah.
Send each other Christmas cards.
Oh, for sure. And so it finally sort of concluded with him coming in. We were almost done dinner, and he said, "Okay, it's going to be about 15-20 minutes, I'll get it cleaned, we'll get the beds made, and then you'll be good to go." And we said, "Okay, that's great." He went back around the building. There was some rustling and like some hitting of metal against metal, like maybe a rake fell over or something. And no less than 45 seconds later, he came back in and he's like, "Are you the people staying in 4 and 5? And we said, yes, we are. He's like, "Oh, okay, your rooms are ready. Let me know if you need anything."
And then he walked back out.
And we never saw him again. So that was it. We never saw him again. I'm not even sure he worked there, but and then we went in the rooms and the beds were made, and it
he's going to use you as a reference for his next job.
For sure. It was just because he in that 20-45 seconds, I don't know what happened back there, but he completely reset, and he was meeting us for the first time after we'd spent an hour together. So it was an interesting spot.
What was his name?
I don't know. Super high guy.
Bob?
Yeah, I should have got his name. He was a nice guy. And Liza and I were talking about him and how crazy this was. And then we realized there was like a Nest camera in the crazy multifunction room, I imagine, for like the S&M videos that they do in there on the weekends or whatever. And it was, so, I mean, it's probably out there. That guy maybe went home and just watched us talk about him for half an hour. But I'll have to say, I thoroughly enjoyed the experience. Would your
time at the Wild Goose Lodge?
Yeah, despite how wild the Wild Goose Lodge was, I would 10 out of 10.
I did look it up. It is hilarious. In Merrill.
It is dinner and a show.
Yeah.
Merrill. See, I was right. Merrill.
Yeah. Yes, has booked some time there, and
right after this.
Yeah. So the next, so exactly right after this, he's heading out. So the next morning, we departed for beautiful Springfield, Oregon, to see Ike and Linus, and to pick up the Nada and get ready to go to Overland Expo. And we will.
And while you're playing with Burnout Bob and doing all that, we're furiously wrenching and tightening and testing, and Linus is driving your car home every night to put miles on it to make sure that you're gonna make it back to Los Angeles.
At least somebody was diligent about making sure that car was roadworthy, because I can tell you it wasn't
not diligent
Stephen.
enough.
Not
Sadly.
diligent enough.
Not. And we'll find out more about that in the second half of the Summer Breakdown, as it isn't a Summer Breakdown episode without a massive cliffhanger. Of course, this time we're not asking, did Ike die in that motorcycle crash? Instead, we're asking, what befell us on the trip back, which was free of any wild gooses, but not necessarily free of disasters. So join us next week, dear listener, when we come back to the
when we all explode.
The exciting conclusion of the summer break. And everybody explodes in the second part of the second installment of the Summer Breakdown. So again, join us next week. Thank you for your time as always. Linus, Ike, Liza, great chatting, and looking so forward to wrapping the story up next week.
It's going to be great.